All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to get going right away. We are down to the number one thing you need to do to start a business. And I'll do a quick recap, but I want to encourage you to go back through and look at all the individual videos that are there because I cover them in a lot more depth and I'm not covering every single item necessarily or in the amount of depth that you may need to actually consider these. Also, before we get going, if you can hit the subscribe button, click the thumbs up, which is a like basically, and then also hit the alert button. And if you know of somebody that could use this information, please feel free to share that this video with them in the series. Hopefully, if you're not able to have the conversation, maybe they'll be able to hear it from me and it'll be a win-win for everybody. All right, started out with a bonus tip. Determine if you need to hire anyone right from the get-go, right? Maybe you're starting a restaurant or a retail, convenience store, and you do because you can't be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week yourself. And you shouldn't. You need to have a healthy work-life balance if you can, but you're going to be putting a lot of hours in if you're starting a business, and it's going to take a lot of time. So determine if you need to hire part-time, full-time people, or whether you need to hire a contract, which is 1099, different tax situations there versus W-2. And so again, take a look at the first video and I'll explain more in depth there. Number 10, you need to establish an FEIN, which is a federal employer identification number. It's basically a social security number for the baby that you're starting and giving birth to, your business. It allows you to pay your taxes, both, state and federal. It allows you to get contracts with other companies if you, have a service that they're willing to, engage you on, and register with the state. And then also you need it to, if you're going to hire people, because you have to, especially if they're W-2, pay, payroll taxes and the sort. Number 9, you need to register your company with the state, and you can be operating in a state, but you may have your headquarters registered somewhere else. So you may be operating your business out of Illinois, but because Illinois taxes are so high, you may headquarter your business in Delaware, which has some tax advantages there. So speak to an attorney and an accountant on what that looks like. Which brings us into number 8 and number 7. Number 8 and number 7. Pay the money up front. Spend an hour or two with a good business attorney, and then also a good tax accountant, right? And they're going to help you set up your structure, your corporate and business structure. I encourage you to not go sole proprietor, right? Because again, there's not that layer and level of protection between you personally and what your company's doing. So it's not going to be that much more, and it may be easier for you if you're, like I said, a maker and you're knitting scarves and you're selling them on Etsy or something like that. Maybe it makes sense to do sole proprietorship there. But if you are going to be interacting with the public at all and going to be doing any decent amount of revenue, make sure you engage them both and set up, an LLC, S Corp, or C Corp. Second bonus tip, get business insurance. And this is one you want to go back and look at this video here, number 6 and number 5, because again, this is something that's very important. And especially as you put yourself out there, engage with the public more, or work for a company that's using your product that engages with the public a lot, you want to have that layer of protection along with your business name and your business structure. So go take a gander at that video. Number 6, establish a business checking account. You got to be able to pay people and get paid. You can't do that on your personal. Typically, they won't do that. You got to have a business account, and you should. You don't want to commingle your funds between personal and your business. And then when you're doing so, there's typically different levels of business account. Make sure you understand the minimum balances that are required, because they'll dock you for that in terms of the fees that are there, and then any overdraft charges as well. And be careful if you're running a cash business as well. I mean, if you're accepting cash or have to accept cash, there's always that safety element. You also don't want to commingle your funds from that perspective. And then number 5, develop a detailed and realistic pro forma. I encourage you to develop a worst case and medium target pro forma. This should be a living document. Once you're a year or two in, you need to update this thing consistently. It'll help you with getting a line of credit, which we'll cover here in a second. And then run it by, family, friends, or, seek out somebody from SCORE, which is a small business administration, retired executive that will, typically help you out and do it for free of charge or minimal charge. There's also chambers of commerce that might be able to recommend you to somebody similar to that, because they want to, establish their local area in terms of business growth there, because it helps with employment. Bunch of different reasons why. Number 4, establish a business line of credit. Do it when times are good, even if it's a small amount, and you can keep going back once you're utilizing it a little bit and paying it off. Do not use this as revenue though. And again, I want to encourage you, keep this always available. This is for emergency over or short term. If you have a vendor that's or a customer that's late paying you 30 days, right? Maybe they're not a huge company but bigger than yours, but maybe one of their vendors for the project you're working on, they didn't pay them, and so they don't have the cash flow, and you guys are delayed 30 days. It's nice to have that line of credit, and it's nice to establish it when you don't need it, because banks will give it to you then. They won't give it to you when you need it, when times are tough like they are now. And then also, make sure it's not secure. If you can all do it, don't put your house or your savings up. Make sure it's always tied to your business, either unsecured, or that you're putting up things that the business owns, not you personally. So take a look at that video also, number 4 and number 3. Number 3, establish a brand identity, and that means a good, memorable name that fits the product or service. Again, not going to beat you up on this and beat this dead horse. We covered it in the video for number 4 and 3. Number 2, secure an available domain name. And again, I want to encourage you to look at the .crypto, especially if you're only having a brochureware site where you're just having contact information, services, and it's not e-commerce necessarily. This is good because it's a one-time fee right now, and it's not that monthly charge, and you can get a pretty decent brochureware site out of there, and so it's pretty reasonable. And then the number 1 thing to consider if you're ready to start a business: provide a great product or service. At the end of the day, if you don't have this, all that other stuff is good, but it's not going to be long lasting, right? You can have a catchy name, you can go through the whole checklist and be ready to go. But if you don't have a great product or service, and hopefully you're starting something that's just so disruptive that it's game changing for how we do business, right? Before the iPhone came out, all right, there was the BlackBerry, and there's a lot of things going on there in terms of there's Nextel and the direct connect calls there, and that was changing, especially on the job sites for construction, how business is done, right? But then the iPhone came out, and then boom, things changed drastically. That was game changing, right? So maybe you have a product similar to that. So what that does though, in terms of having a great service or product, it'll generate the revenue you need to solve all of your other issues, right? It's a good problem to have. So I'm going to go through these real quick. So is it a special skill that you have that not a lot of people have and can meet a demand or a potential demand? So as we go into the future, and looks like the world is really, whether you agree with this or not, this is not meant to be political at all, but there's concerns about carbon output, right? And so maybe you have an expertise from a scientific standpoint and you come up with something that will help reduce the carbon footprint for manufacturing companies, and you're the only one who's studied this in multiple levels of expertise, and you can charge a pretty penny on that, right? Maybe you have a product that's in high demand and it's just in low supply, right? There's a lot of rare earth elements out there, that because of the manufacturing needs and high-tech manufacturing needs, maybe there's an industry there that you're getting into, and you can help meet that low supply that's there, and typically that means you can demand a much higher price. Is this, and we talked about this, is this a new product that people don't even realize they need yet, because they're just so used to doing certain things that once they have it, they're just like, I can't believe that we used to operate like this. You hear people talk about this, the old days of business, right? We used to have, typewriters where you had to use whiteout on the actual page, and then go back in, line it up, and make sure, let it dry, go back and line it up and make sure that the type hit there. These are on legal documents, right? And then the autocorrect came, right? And you hit the back button, and it basically had a ribbon of whiteout in there, and it automatically deleted that and then retyped it for you. So just think about what it is you're offering. If you're doing something that's game changing, that's awesome. Talked a little bit about this. Is there high profit margin on your product or service? With relatively low competition? Is the great product or service, will it present, good problems to solve? And typically the cash flow will help solve those, right? Again, if you have that, it will cause good problems, right? Maybe you can't staff it quick enough. That's a good problem to have, which means that you can typically overcome that because you have good revenue and by paying people more. And that's it. That's the number 1 item that we have for today. The next series that I'm going to cover with everybody is top 10 reasons your business may fail. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, if you can give me a subscribe, that would be great and helpful. If you give me a thumbs up, that's also helpful, and click the alert button. And then also share this video or this series with somebody who you may know that's starting a business or getting ready to and may find this helpful as well.